President lands in Tokyo with the First Lady about to make remarks to the troops.
There's no single place I'd rather begin my trip than right here with all of you, the incredible men and women of the United States military.
It's an important visit. It comes at a critical time. The first three stops are going to be dominated by the North Korean nuclear weapons program.
No dictator, no regime, and no nation should underestimate ever American resolve.
Donna Brazile claims Hillary Clinton rigged her party's nomination process.
You guys are so obsessed with Hillary Clinton. We're obsessed with Hillary because Hillary is obsessed with Hillary.
Republicans are ready to take the next step in their effort to overhaul our tax system.
The best way to grow jobs in this country is to give the American people more of their hard-earned dollars in their own pockets.
Should I put it on? I like this better.
Welcome to Fox and Friends Weekend on this Sunday morning. This is President Trump and the First Lady of the United States heading into dinner with the Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. Just moments ago, here's some remarks the president's made before heading into dinner.
We salute you, we honor you, and we stand proudly with the men and women who defend us and our way of life. So it's a great honor. Believe me, it's a great honor. We're going to have dinner tonight, where I think we'll insult everybody by continuing to talk about trade. But the time is a little bit limited, and then tomorrow's a very busy day. So thank you all for being here.
A busy day, 12-day trip. This is just some highlights of his first day in Tokyo. They are now sitting down for dinner with the Prime Minister of Japan, with his wife Melania. Right. So we will bring you anything that comes from that. But you mentioned
Kevin,
something
welcome.
yesterday, and Kevin's
Thanks.
back on the couch, and we're thrilled to have you. You said what he needs to double down on.
Also, the trade will be an issue.
And Shinzo Abe, one of the most pro-American prime ministers of Japan, even since World War II. They're sitting down at dinner right now. When they come out, if remarks are made, we will bring them to you, of course. They're scheduled to leave the dinner at 7 Eastern time. Later on, so the time change is significant over there. So then they'll be heading to bed. Later on tonight, they'll be meeting with Japanese business leaders, embassy staff. They'll have an official welcoming ceremony, a working lunch. They're going to feed some Japanese koi fish as well, an official photo, and a bilateral summit on trade. So a busy day in Japan.
Busy day and a busy few days to come. Here's what he tweeted overnight. He said, headed into the 12 days with great negotiating strength because of our, if we can keep scrolling, because of our tremendous... There we go. Heading into the 12 days with great negotiating strength because of our tremendous economy, which is what we've been talking about. Yeah. And, you'd love to be a fly on the wall in that dinner right now with the Prime Minister. You make a great point. Everything over in that part of the world is about symbolism. If you sit down first with Japan, that sends a clear message to China. And he's also talked about building up their nuclear capabilities in that region, which is the last thing
offensive capabilities, because after World War II, they were made purely a self-defense force in Japan. Right. If today, that's very different. Before he did any of this, the first thing he did was meet with and speak to our troops. So last night, the president giving a big speech in front of troops in Japan. Take a listen to a compilation of what he said.
We salute you, we honor you, and we stand proudly with the men and women who defend us and our way of life. Nations are built from the courage, love, and sacrifice of patriots just like you. You instill confidence in the hearts of our allies, and you strike fear in the hearts of our enemies. It's the way it should be, isn't it? We dominate the sky. We dominate the sea. We dominate the land and space. Each of you embodies the warrior creed. Your devotion, prowess, and expertise make you the most fearsome fighting force in the history of our world. No one, no dictator, no regime, and no nation should underestimate ever American resolve. You are the reason the great American flag will proudly stand behind me wherever I go. And every time I look at that flag, I will think of brave men and women like you. And I will think of all of the American patriots down through the generations who poured out their blood, sweat, tears, hopes, and dreams to defend our country.
Well, that certainly sounds like America first to me. I mean,
That's a
especially
good-looking jacket he's wearing.
It is, and we'll get to that in a second. I mean, the resolve, the commitment that he's articulating is in stark contrast, I think, to what so many of our allies heard for 8 years under Barack Obama.
Absolutely, and I think we talked about this yesterday. I love the idea that, when he goes over there, if you're a member of the military, and obviously you were, I've certainly worked very closely with you guys, and, the feeling that you get when you're commander-in-chief, they care about you. Versus with Barack Obama. And again, it's not necessarily a jab at him, but I think it's a very different feel.
But I do think no matter who it is that goes over, when you're serving in a foreign land like that and you represent the United States, it's the most powerful thing you can ever experience. Were you ever there when a president came to visit?
No, but I was there. A couple of U.S. senators and others, and
comedians, right?
Comedians or singers or others, USO.
Which goes a long way, though, I'm sure.
It does go a long way, but I will say that when a commander, it's not just a commander-in-chief. You're right, any president or commander-in-chief, but when it's one that has your back, that believes in America, that wants to strengthen the alliances that have been historically so important to us, including Japan, when they understand the threat of China and North Korea, and they're actually doing something about it, that's where you want to be. Not in this defensive mode or apologetic mode where you feel like you're always sort of trying to figure out what you actually stand for. That's what's so powerful about a moment like this.
But here's the big question. Who got Donald Trump's jacket?
Yeah, well, as you saw, he was wearing this awesome flight jacket. He was in a suit, I think, underneath it all.
Yeah,
but he really played that part. Here's how that played out.
Sir, I will tell you that you look great in that suit, but there's something missing.
Should I put it on? I like this better. You can have my jacket, just...
I have a feeling he's going to be wearing that a lot more going
I'd
forward.
take that jacket. I'd love to have that.
That's nice. You better make sure it's the right size before you put it on the commander-in-chief. Don't get that one wrong.
Well, we're going to be covering this trip for the next 12 days, and we'll bring you anything that comes out of that dinner with the Prime Minister of Japan. But there's still a lot going on here in the swamp, here at home. We're learning more still from this Donna Brazile book. She's talking about the primary, the general election, and giving us a better sense of what was going on with Hillary Clinton behind the scenes. And as head of the DNC, some of the things that she thought about doing as chair.
A bombshell report overnight. Here's a quote from her book. With the book, Donna Brazile's book is called Hacks. First, before we get to a quote, what it was is, as the head of the DNC, if a nominee is either death, resignation, or disability after you get the nomination, not the DNC chair, but the DNC has a process by which you could potentially replace the nominee.
Right.
If you remember, there was a collapse Hillary Clinton suffered at the 9/11 memorial ceremony. You see it right here, some video caught by a local reporter that went viral and triggered an entire conversation about her health and welfare.
As it should have, because we all watched that moment, and this was very close to the election, and there were concerns about her ability to take on the job that, as we're watching now with President Trump, there is a lot to do in that role.
He had been alluding to the fact that Hillary was sick because it wasn't her first. Remember, she was having all the hacking incidents leading up.
That's right. So Donna Brazile, as the head of the DNC, considered replacing Hillary Clinton as the nominee.
Right.
They talked about a dream ticket of Joe Biden and Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey, as the potential.
Ticket.
Listen, they had a backup plan, and it's been amazing to watch the spin unfold from this. Although Donna Brazile did say in her book, as she considered all that, then she thought about this. Take a listen. Donna Brazile wrote a read. I thought of Hillary and all the women in the country who were so proud of and excited about her, and I could not do this to them. Now, she couldn't do it alone, but it leads you to believe that they understood the depth of the health problems and wondered whether or not she could make it all the way through the general.
The problem is, look, again, gender notwithstanding, how about the best candidate, right? And if that's Hillary Clinton, God bless her. But if it isn't, whoever the Democrats are going to put in at that time. But you can see the orchestration that goes on with these guys where she says, no, I really wanted Hillary. It was her turn.
And that's Donna Brazile's job. If you run the DNC, it is about the party. It is about who is best to actually win the general election. You think about Joe Biden, though, and Cory Booker, there would have been a lot of Democrats that I think would have been more excited about that combination. And that would have been interesting to see how that race would have played out.
Her book talks more and more about how the lack of energy, it felt like it was a candidacy on life support. So you see something happen like that, which you never want to see a candidate collapse like that, like we saw. But it's like, well, do we replace her and bring in someone with real energy or not? She certainly considered it.
Well, so the Hillary Clinton camp has responded to this. This is an open letter from the Hillary for America 2016 team. They say, we were shocked to learn the news that Donna Brazile actively considered overturning the will of the Democratic voters by attempting to replace Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine as the Democratic presidential and vice presidential nominee. It is particularly troubling and puzzling that she would seemingly buy into false Russian-fueled propaganda spread by both the Russians and our opponent about our candidate's health. So somehow now Russia plays a role in the decision-making that Donna Brazile was trying to make.
Well, that's the second point. The first point is that she actually believes that, that people don't recognize her for being the cheater. And then the bigger point, obviously, is that they immediately run to mama, right?
2 Russian mentions in a statement defending that? It's unbelievable.
Where everybody knew she was
I guarantee you, Donna Brazile, exactly. Donna Brazile was not looking at Russian propaganda on some Facebook ad that she didn't want to look at anyway. She was looking at, is she literally well enough to be our candidate for president?
She watched video of Hillary Clinton practically take a Louis into her SUV. If it hadn't been for 2 pretty strong-armed Secret Service guys, she would have been in big trouble. Not to mention, remember,
stop it. No, Russia. Okay.
Remember before too, when she had she wore the big Coke bottle glasses because she had some issues leading up to that.
Russia, Kevin.
All right. Well, more is coming out about this book. I just still can't believe Donna Brazile is breaking all of this news.
I know, it's unbelievable.
She's been so loyal to the Clintons, so we're going to have more on that throughout the show. But I do want to bring
Kevin, welcome. You're a good sport.
Some other headlines that we were following this morning, starting with a serious one and a Fox News alert. A U.S. service member killed in Afghanistan. The soldier died after being wounded during operations in the country's Logar province. Their identity not yet been released. This is the second death of a U.S. soldier in Logar in a week. Last weekend, Chief Warrant Officer Jacob Sims was killed in a helicopter crash. 6 crew members were also injured in that crash. So sad. And also this, Senator Rand Paul recovering this morning after police say he was assaulted by his neighbor. Did you hear about this? The Kentucky senator telling police that this man, Rene Boucher, tackled him while he mowed the lawn outside of his Bowling Green, Kentucky home on Friday. Police now investigating if the attack was politically motivated, but neighbors say the two have had issues in the past. Senator Paul has minor injuries, but is expected to be okay. And security is at full force for today's New York City Marathon, which comes less than a week after 8 people were killed in a terror attack. A record number of police vehicles will be lining along the roadways. Federal, state, and local law enforcement are also spread throughout the city today. More than 50,000 runners will take part in the 26.2-mile race that starts here in New York City, 9 a.m. Eastern. I saw them all lining up over on 5th Avenue.
Is that where they line up?
All the buses are lined up. They take them to where the starting line is. And
lots of them.
I was reading a number of stories this morning of just incredible people that are running in this marathon. So many inspiring stories.
It'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, moving on. Democrats say President Trump's tax plan is an assault on the middle class.
Ways to the wealthy and the powerful, and telling the middle class, take a hike. You're on your own, baby.
Lee Carter next on that.
They're big tax cuts, the biggest cuts in the history of our country, actually. It's really not for the rich, it's for the middle class, and it's for jobs.
That's President Trump pledging historic tax cuts for the middle class. But you wouldn't know it if you listened to the Democrat reaction.
If you're the wealthiest, 1%, Republicans will give you the sun, the moon, and the stars.
The overwhelming winners in this bill are the people who have the power.
They're doing tax giveaways to the wealthy and the powerful, and telling the middle class, take a hike. You're on your own, baby.
He says it smells like a dead, stinky fish. So are these the same old talking points from Democrats, or will the backlash make a difference? Here to react, President and partner at Misklansky & Partners, Lee Carter. Good to have you with us, Lee.
Great to be here.
Good morning.
So that is the question. I mean, a lot of these Democrats came out with these talking points before they had any sense of what was actually in this plan. So how should people be thinking about it?
Look, I think people overall are confused. You see, for every fact you see that says this is a bad tax plan, you see some that say it's a great tax plan. You know, when you look at the average middle class family, they're going to be getting over just about $1,200 more back in their income per year. And that's something that is really resonating with them. And then you see a lot of the Democrat talking points, and they're grossly exaggerating what's going to happen. Even Chuck Schumer said, you know what, I misspoke when he was talking about some of the hurt that it's going to do. This whole notion that they're also talking about how this is a con job on the middle class. I think one of the things that people need to understand, especially on the Democrat side, is it's enough of being condescending. To think that people are that stupid that they can't figure out for themselves whether it's good or not. This saying it's a con job on the middle class isn't all that different than saying it's a basket full of deplorables. In other words, it's saying people aren't smart enough to decide for themselves. There's a lot of facts out there. There's a lot of information out there. I don't think this is going to have a big change.
Isn't it because they've got one playbook and they dust it off every single time? We did a little bit of research because tape lives for a long time. Listen to Democrats, what they've said about tax plans in the past.
What you are looking at here today is Robin Hood upside down.
You can see very clearly from this chart that middle-class America has been shafted.
These tax cuts are going into the pocketbooks of the rich and the wealthy of this nation.
The rich got richer, the poor got poorer, and working families got stuck with the entire bill.
At what point does reality matter when this tax plan doesn't do any of that?
Well, the interesting thing right now is that facts are mattering less and less. And I'm not saying that people don't care, but it's really hard to get the information that you need, because whatever you do, I mean, it's a fact. There's confirmation bias. If you go out there and you want to search to find out what's going on, you're going to believe what you want to believe. So this narrative that the Democrats have, and they've had it for a long time, is the rich are going to get richer, the poor are going to get poorer, and we're going to do it on the heels of, of the average American. That is a narrative that's been at play, as you can see, for years and years and years. And it's a very, very hard narrative to get over. That's why I think it's been so smart that the Republicans this time have said this is a middle-class jobs act. This is about jobs growth, because they are saying we are fighting for you, middle America. And that's what this whole plan has been. It's a very different Republican Party than we've seen in a long time.
Does it work or not?
I think it does work, because when you talk to a lot of the average American voters, and I think so many people are just out of touch with the working class Americans, understanding what they're saying. They feel for the first time that they're being spoken to, they're being cared for. This idea of a simple tax return, the idea that you're not going to have to pay so much money to have your taxes filed, this idea that you're going to be able to have more money that you can spend for yourself, is one that really does resonate with the American people. And I think if the Democrats go against this, they're going to be seen as obstructionists. And that's what the American people are so tired of, just saying no without the details.
We're going to have to.
25 minutes now after the hour, we are back with some quick headlines. Paul Manafort offering $12 million in assets to avoid house arrest. The recently indicted political aide pledging to New York properties and one in Florida, along with $4.5 million worth of life insurance and security. A bond hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. And the number of refugees coming into this country dramatically decreasing under the Trump administration, down 87% through the first month of the fiscal year, 8,000 fewer than the first month of the fiscal year in 2017 under President Obama. And the State Department noting that the percentage of Muslim refugees down as well, from 45 to 23%.
All right. Earlier this week, Donna Brazil's new memoir alleged that Clinton and the DNC rigged the 2016 primary against Bernie Sanders. But Brazil now seems to be backpedaling on her own quote. Why is that?
The author of All Out War, The Plot to Destroy Trump, Ed Klein, joins us now with his reaction. Great to have you here,
Good morning.
Ed.
Good to be with you.
All right, so we've read what is in at least the excerpts from this book. You know, she knew what she wrote. It was edited. That's how books go. She now seems to be backpedaling on this. What is going on?
Well, you know, Donna Brazil took a huge hit, if you remember, in March, when, as a CNN contributor, she leaked questions to Hillary Clinton for a town hall, and her reputation took a huge hit. I think this book, to begin with, her effort to redeem herself in the eyes of the Democratic Party, but I think it was a huge mistake for her to do this book.
But she's taking on the Clinton machine. I mean, she's ultimately saying we potentially wanted to replace her. Was she the right nominee? I mean, is this surprising to you that someone of her sort of establishment credibility would do this turnabout?
Well, not only is it surprising, but I did some reporting with the Obama people just yesterday. They laugh at the idea that Donna Brazil could possibly have replaced Hillary Clinton, given the fact that Hillary had all the superdelegates, she had all the money, she had the entire apparatus of the Democratic Party. Donna Brazile couldn't have possibly.
She couldn't have, but the DNC says death, resignation, or disability. So if you see what happened in September, if she's not able to be the candidate, it's conceivable that she could have.
Bill Clinton put together a whole legal team to make sure she would never be replaced, and she wasn't going to be replaced. Donna Brazile has been trying to redeem herself ever since that leak, and she sees the locus of the party shifting to the left. I think this is one of her efforts to make a common cause, if you will, with the Bernie Sanders wing of the party. Well, I think it's boomeranged on her, however, because the entire party is now coming down on her, saying this is not the time to wash dirty linen when we need to coalesce.
But why is that? Because you mentioned earlier, you're saying she's trying to gain credibility, as we were alluding to earlier. Why would they? Going after the Clintons seems to be the last thing you'd want to do for that. So is it really showcasing that they're, because there supposedly is an attack on the Clintons inside of the party. I said yesterday to Alan Dershowitz, I believe that there's been this cabal to get Hillary and Bill for some time now.
As somebody who's gone after the Clintons, you're looking at them right now. Believe me, they don't just sit back and let you go after them. I mean, they are tough players. And Donna Brazile, according to my sources, Barack Obama says she's finished in the Democratic Party, that she'll never get a job and probably never get another gig at CNN.
So one of these bombshells that's come out is the fainting spell when she was down at the 9/11 memorial in the museum, and you can see that video there. She talks about, as DNC chair, thinking about replacing her with Joe Biden and Cory Booker. You were reporting on this at the time about what was going on behind the scenes in the Clinton camp. Take us back to that.
In this new book, All That War, that I've just written, I have a whole section about when she fainted at this 9/11 memorial, went to her daughter's apartment downtown, if you recall.
Right.
And at that time, Bill Clinton and Chelsea had a phone conversation about this, and Bill wanted to send her to the hospital because this is not just one fainting spell. She's had numerous faintings.
So isn't Donna just doing her job?
And her people said, no, if you go to the hospital, this is going to put a kibosh on your candidacy.
So the Clinton campaign is panicking behind the scenes because their candidate just passed out, potentially. But isn't it legitimate that Donna Brazile, as the head of the DNC, would also put contingency plans in order in case, unfortunately, Hillary Clinton was incapable of being a candidate?
But lots of luck going up against the Clintons, who had such control over the party at that time. There really wasn't a party. There was the Clinton party, and there was a shell of the Democratic Party at that time.
One and the same.
It is interesting.
Well, a lot of news still coming out on that. Ed, good to have you on this morning.
Ed, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right, Donna Brazile isn't Hillary Clinton's only problem, to say the least. The FBI just made a big move with her email scandal.
And it's not just the national anthem anymore. Now the left is declaring war on the Pledge of Allegiance. Where does all of this end? Our panel is here next to discuss.
Where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. There's a lady that stands in a... That's why your
love. Those are my parents in Moscow. They've made it. They are settled in. And last night was the Marine Ball, celebrating 242 years of the U.S. Marines. What I love about this, Pete, is no matter where you are in the world, we're celebrating our military, even in Russia.
Oh, the Marines are there. Marines in Moscow.
And this table right here, you can see they always have one set up for the fallen. As you know.
For the missing in action, POWs, and the fallen, to always remember that there are those that won't be at dinner because they gave everything or they're still missing. It's a powerful tradition that the Marine Corps, the Army, everyone always honors. So good on the Huntsman family.
Nice that it still goes on all throughout the world. And this one, I want to give a quick shout out to my brother. He's on the left of that screen. He's in the Navy. I'm not going to talk about what he's doing because it's secret stuff and he'd be upset with me. But he's that guy that you see driving down the highway in his truck, the windows down, country music blazing with the American flag tied to the back. He's just one of those people, when I talk to him, it reminds me of how great it is to be in this country.
Kind of guy I grew up with.
Happy birthday, Will. Love you so much.
Amazing chapter of the Huntsman life right now.
Busy times. Yeah. All right, I do want to bring you some other headlines that we're following. The FBI is turning over new documents to Senate investigators for the probe into Hillary Clinton's private email server. The memos will assist in the review of former Director James Comey's handling of that case. They detail how and when the FBI and Comey decided not to charge Clinton for her handling of classified information on a private email server. And Netflix warning millions of subscribers to be on high alert for a new scam. An email is being sent to users claiming their accounts are about to be canceled, asking for credit card details to reactivate the account. Clicking on the email link takes you to a page featuring a background of popular Netflix show The Crown. I love that show, where users are then asked to log in. That website, though, is bogus, so do not take that trick. And while the president was golfing with the Japanese prime minister, the first lady got a history lesson with her Japanese counterpart. Melania Trump took to a high-end shopping district in Tokyo with Akiya Abe. That is the wife of course, Prime Minister Abe, where the pair exchanged cheek kisses. The ladies then went upstairs for talk over tea and learned about Japan's pearl harvesting history. Love that. All right.
Yeah.
And we've got some weather. So marathon here in New York. It's supposed to maybe rain. Adam, what's going on?
Yeah, maybe some spotty showers here in New York City, but the bigger story is going to be the Midwest. Temperatures, there's areas where it's feeling like winter, areas where it's feeling like spring. Take a look at this big warm up in the center of the country. 49 degrees in Chicago, 51 in Kansas City. Way cooler on the backside of that. That is a cold front. That's where we're going to see a lot of activity today. So stretching from areas of Illinois to Indiana and Ohio, all an area where we could see some severe weather before the day is over. So folks in the Midwest know that that is on the way for this afternoon. Really think the heat of the day is the time that system could arrive. We're beginning to see maybe just a little bit of a rain firing up there now, but on the other side of the country, it is the exact opposite type of weather. We're talking more winter-like weather. As you're seeing snow falling across the Pacific Northwest, that is going to be continuing. We actually have watches and warnings firing up here throughout the rest of your Sunday, as we could be seeing just a little bit of snow piling up for those folks. And now I think we're tossing it to Pete. Pete, winter
Adam,
just around the corner. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Appreciate it, Adam. Well, it's not just the national anthem anymore. Now the Pledge of Allegiance is under fire. In the Washington Post, Bates College professor Christopher Petrella claims while the language contained in the pledge is not overtly nativist or xenophobic, the spirit that animated its creation was steeped in bigotry due to its origins in nativism and white nationalism. Here to react, our panel, Dr. Darren Porcher, U.S. Army veteran and former NYPD lieutenant. Dr. Rebecca Grant worked in the offices of the U.S. Air Force, and Richard Fowler, Fox News contributor and Democratic strategist. Welcome to you all this morning. Darren, I will start with you. So when you have a professor teaching kids and writing an article in the Washington Post that the Pledge of Allegiance now is out of bounds, what do you say to that?
Well, I think it's problematic. The Pledge of Allegiance was written at an imperfect time by imperfect individuals. When we take into consideration the Pledge of Allegiance, the U.S. Constitution, and the national anthem, they were, at that time, we have evolved in a far greater society. I'm a prior Army officer and I'm a prior NYPD lieutenant. I have come in every day under the Pledge of Allegiance, and I see it as a unifier, and I think it's something that we need to progressively see as something that brings us together as a nation, and we need to look at it as such.
So, Richard, I'm putting your hand over your heart in your classroom, pledging allegiance to the country that gives you so much. What could possibly be wrong with that?
Well, I think Darren is right to say that, you know, these three documents were created at an imperfect time in our history. But I think to go a little bit further, I think if we're going to use, you know, the Pledge of Allegiance and the anthem as our two sites as what makes a patriot, I think that's what's problematic, and I think we should speak to that as a country, because just because you don't happen to put your hand on your heart when you say the pledge, or you happen to kneel because you're protesting racial oppression, that doesn't make you un-American. And I think that's sort of a part of a large debate that we're having in this country that we shouldn't be having, because I don't think that that doesn't define what being an American is, because of two things, right? Being an American is more than just two things. Being an American is how we live every day, how we go to work, how we contribute to our society, how we help our neighbors. That's what makes us authentically American, not because we pledge to a flag or we sing the national anthem.
Sure, but Richard, people go to work and they have families and they do things in other countries, but if they don't say the pledge, they may say a pledge to their own country, we say a pledge to ours. Rebecca, before we get back to you, Richard, give us some context on this pledge. You know, what was the origins of it? What was the reason for it? Why do we say it?
Right. Where did these college professors come up with this? So the origin is, yes, this was a period of defining America as a nation. We created national parks. The next year, America the Beautiful was written. Are they going to come after that next? So every word in that pledge is universal. It goes back to our revolution, goes back to the French Revolution, and I like all those words. I like nation, like I love our national teams at the Olympics. I love allegiance, liberty, justice for all, and I even like under God. There is nothing in that pledge that I don't want to sign up for. Every morning, I'd sign up for that every morning.
Darren, is there anything in that pledge that we should not be signing up for, to her point?
I disagree. I think that we should leave it as it is. We're Americans, and ultimately that's what the benchmark of the pledge is. It stands for nationalism for us as Americans. And every day that I look at that flag and I salute that flag, I give thanks and I pay homage to not just the Pledge of Allegiance, but the national anthem, and I'm very proud to be an American.
Richard, to you, the professor who wrote this article, the title of this professor is Intellectual Histories of Race and Resistance, a professor of Intellectual Histories of Race and Resistance. So is this not an extension of people who see themselves through the lens of identity politics or racial politics, as opposed to what should unite us, knowing we're an imperfect country, but ultimately, why can we not pledge allegiance to this country that has given us so much?
Well, I don't think that's what this professor is saying at all. I think the ideal that the pledge says liberty and justice for all is something that we should thrive towards as a nation, and that's what we've always done as a country. Is we've thrived towards liberty and justice for all, and we should continue to work towards that. But it means that we all have to work together to make sure that we have liberty and justice for all, and not just a chosen few. And so that requires that everybody work towards that, not just Democrats, not just Republicans, not just independents, but all Americans. And when we see an injustice, or when we see somebody not getting liberty, we should all fight to make sure that everybody has liberty and everybody has justice, and that's what this is. This is about.
Dr. Richard, very briefly, Richard says that it's for the chosen few. Is the pledge for the chosen few or for all?
That's not what I said at all.
The pledge is for all of us. It's your pledge. You say it how you want to. You can't compel that speech. Say it to the flag and have your own thoughts about it. It's for all of us.
But that's not. Let me be very clear. That's not what I said. I said that we believe
benefits a chosen
in liberty and justice for all, not just for a chosen few. And we should fight to ensure that we have liberty for everybody and justice for everybody. That's very different than saying that it's for just the chosen few.
That's the spirit of the pledge. That's the spirit of the pledge.
The debate will continue, and hopefully our schools keep saying this pledge, regardless of what a professor of intellectual histories of race and resistance has to say about it in the Washington Post. Thank you, Dr. Porcher, Richard Fowler, and Dr. Grant for your debate this morning. We appreciate it. Thank you. A Fox News alert now. Security ramped up for this morning's New York City Marathon after this week's terror attack. Up next, Ed Davis, who led the manhunt for the Boston Marathon bombers, with what's being done to keep everyone safe. And Antifa vowed to occupy the streets day after day and night after night until President Trump is out of office. Spoiler alert, these millennial protesters, they didn't even make it that long.
We are back with the Fox News Alert. Police beefing up security ahead of this morning's New York City Marathon. Some 50,000 runners are expected to participate today, despite Tuesday's terror attack that left 8 people dead. Ed Davis is the former Boston Police Commissioner, and he led the investigation into the Boston Marathon bombing, and of course, a Fox News contributor. He joins us now with more on what safety precautions are being taken. Ed, good to have you with us. It is a big day today here in New York City. People come from all over the world, as you know, just like they do in Boston, to watch these runners. What is going to change today because of what happened last week here in New York?
Well, the preparations have been underway for some time. I was in Central Park last weekend, and they were setting up the grandstands, putting up security fences. But the attack has really changed the whole picture here. There will be thousands more NYPD officers assigned to this event, and you'll see a significant amount of increased presence, along with dump trucks full of sand, barricades that have been put up to prevent the type of attack that happened the other day. You'll see a significant significant number of officers on rooftops. The number of rooftop surveillance teams, sniper teams, if you will, have been increased dramatically. And those are all very visible signs of increased security. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes, too, a lot in the intelligence gathering. I'm sure that NYPD is scrubbing all of the cases that they have to see the status of the individuals doing extra surveillance. There's a lot going on right now.
You were a part of the investigation after the terror attack in the Boston Marathon. What did you find was most effective as they looked to making it more secure for the following or the next time they had that marathon? What did you learn from that experience that can help times like today in New York?
Visibility is the key thing. Visibility and the impression that these events are invulnerable is what the NYPD is striving for right now. They want to put it in the mind of a terrorist that there's no way they're going to be able to survive or effectively execute their plan. And I think that if you look at what's happening in New York City this morning, that's really the impression that the New York police are giving.
What I love, though, is no matter what terrorists hope to do, and in terms of instilling fear in us, we continue to live our lives and do what we love to do. Still today, we have 50,000 runners in the New York City Marathon. 2.5 million will be watching. I will be one of them. What advice do you have if you are part of those hundreds of thousands, millions watching on the sidelines? What should you look out for to make sure that you are safe?
Well, first, you should live your life. We're a tough, proud nation. We learn that time after time after time. Be out there, pay attention. If you see something that you think is unusual, report it immediately to the police. Use that phone, pick up the phone, call 911, send a text. The police would much rather hear from you than regret not getting the call later on. So please call.
Yeah, the NYPD will be very busy today, a lot on their plate, but we are very lucky to have our law enforcement in place. Ed Davis, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby. Yep.
All right, still coming up on the show, Corey Lewandowski and General Jack Keane. They are going to be here live. Also, this Antifa vowed to occupy the streets day after day and night after night until President Trump is out of office. But a spoiler alert, they didn't make it that long.